So right away, the source throws us into this world that feels really dislocated, hostile even, and it's all seen through the eyes of one of the boys.
And that hostility, it starts the second they arrive in this village. The narrator talks about feeling totally alien, like captured wild beasts, just constantly being watched.
Yeah, you sense they're marked as outsiders immediately.
And it's not just a feeling, right? The text gets specific.
Very specific. It mentions women spitting at the narrator's brother, kids throwing stones. It's this immediate, raw rejection.
Absolutely. And this feeling of being trapped, unwelcome, it gets underlined pretty quickly with escape attempts.
Yeah, some of the others try to leave, but it doesn't work out.
No. The source describes them coming back, injured black eyes, dried blood, cut lips.
Matted hair, even a kick bruise mentioned. It really hammers home how harsh this place is and the cost of even trying to get out.
And after that, there's this incredibly tense journey. They have to cross a flooded valley.
On a trolley, yeah. And the headman's warning is chilling.
Don't move at all. If anyone moves, you'll all tip over and die. Just imagining that.
And the narrator just holding his brother's hand tight the whole time. It feels like this tiny point of connection amidst all that fear.
Such a small detail, but says so much. It really highlights that bond.
So once they're across, their housing situation isn't much better. A one-story building near a fire tower, described as feeling shut in gloomily.
And they literally are shut in. The door's locked from the outside.
Right. And one of the boys, Minami, tries to break it down, but can't. Just confirms their confinement.
And then there's the food, or lack of it.
Yeah, the text mentions this meager ration of potatoes and compares it to what the villagers feed their pigs.
Wow.
And constant choking thirst. It's not just about physical discomfort, right? It feels like degradation, like they're being treated as less than human.
So, okay.
Yeah.
They're confined, hungry, thirsty, people hate them, and then comes their first job.
Yeah, the blacksmith tells them they have a first little task to bury a few little things. Sounds simple, but...
It's anything but.
No, it turns out to be burying loads of dead animals. Dogs, cats, rats, goats, calves.
The sheer number, and the text emphasizes their rotting state. That detail about the calf with the burst stomach, oozing. It's
incredibly visceral, makes the death feel very present, very physical. The whole scene just reeks of decay.
And it signals something is deeply wrong there.
Definitely. And the blacksmith, who kind of starts out seeming cheerful, he's their guide through this horror. Creates this really weird contrast.
And he's the one who starts talking about illness.
Yeah, he first mentions an animal plague, but then, crucially, he adds, people died too, and he names a Korean man specifically.
Okay, so it's not just animals.
Right. And the text also mentions a woman evacuee found half dead in the warehouse, maybe from eating rotten food. So you start piecing together this picture of some unseen, deadly threat.
And the blacksmith reveals the village's rule for dealing with plagues.
Which is just stark. The whole village will run away. We escape and leave the sick.
Wow. Just abandon them.
Exactly. Which brings up a huge question, doesn't it?
Yeah, if that's the rule, why are these boys still there? Why weren't they abandoned?
The narrator actually asks him that, and the blacksmith is kind of evasive. He says, well, the plague hasn't spread too far yet, but it doesn't really answer the question.
No, it leaves you feeling like they've been deliberately left behind to face whatever's coming.
A heavy feeling. And that dread, it becomes real pretty quickly.
Right, one of their own group who gets sick and dies.
Yeah, the source describes his physical state, showing the illness is now actively inside their group.
And how do the villagers react to this death?
It's described as very clinical, almost cold. The headman and blacksmith come back, but they're wary, armed.
And they examine the body.
With the flashlight, yeah. The text calls it a disrespectful physical examination. It's not about mourning, it's like assessment, detached.
But then something shifts.
Yes. After checking the body, they leave. And this time, they leave the wooden door unlocked.
That unlocked door? That's a huge moment.
It really is, because soon after, an alarm bell rings out. Lots of commotion.
Confirming the villagers are leaving. Fleeing the valley, just like the blacksmith said they do when there's plague.
So the boys sneak out, and the text captures that moment of realization. The only ones left in the silent village.
It calls it a common feeling of being crushed by the same surprise. They weren't saved, they were just abandoned.
Utterly abandoned, but in a way also suddenly free from that direct adult control.
Right, and the narrative shifts. It says the boys start to occupy the village.
They break into houses, find food, sacks of rice, dried fish, soy sauce. They find personal stuff too.
Underwear, but also stranger things like weapon chains, bulletproof glass.
Yeah, And what's really interesting is the text points out they don't feel guilty or excited about it. It's not really theft in their minds.
More like claiming resources. Survival mode.
Exactly. A pragmatic shift. Their world has completely changed.
And this brief period of, let's call it freedom, leads to another key encounter.
Right. They find a village girl alive in the warehouse with her dead mother.
Wow.
The girl's appearance is described, and there's this fragile start of a connection. The narrator shares food with her.
A small moment of humanity in all that desolation.
But it also brings the fear back, because the girl is sick. Just as the anxiety about illness is really starting to bubble up among the boys again.
And that tension ramps up even more when one of the boys, Lee, the Korean boy, reveals a secret.
Yeah, he tells them a runaway soldier is hiding nearby in the Korean settlement.
A soldier. You can imagine the boys maybe building him up in their minds, like maybe he'll have answers or authority.
Possibly. But the reality, when they eventually see him, is disappointing. The text describes his face as miserable, shriveled, with a dark, tired expression. He's wearing a work jacket, not a uniform.
So, not the figure of authority they might have imagined.
Not at all. And interestingly, this soldier actually benefits from the village being empty and cut off. He's been hiding out.
Right, gives him more freedom.
But the focus quickly shifts back to the illness. The girl they found is getting worse.
Yeah, the text mentions her high-pitched gasps, shivering. Clear signs things are escalating.
And because the soldier's there, there's this desperate hope maybe he knows something about medicine. Maybe he can help.
So they turn to him.
They do. He examines the girl and his diagnosis. That's the moment the fear becomes completely real and immediate for everyone.
He confirms it.
He confirms she has the plague, and he notes specific horrible symptoms, like runny shit like blood.
Oh, God. And that confirmation just unleashes chaos, doesn't it?
And chaos. Minami spreads the word instantly. Panic erupts. And fear needs a target.
And they find one. Quickly.
They find one in the narrator's brother's dog, Leo. Suddenly, there are accusations flying.
That Leo dug up the buried bodies and bit the sick girl. Spread the plague.
Exactly. It's classic scapegoating born out of terror.
And it leads to just a horrible decision.
An incredibly tragic one. They decide to kill the dog.
Oh, man.
The text really conveys the brother's absolute devastation. He just runs away, can't handle the loss, the cruelty of it.
And the narrator tries to regain control, right? Tries to stop the panic.
Yeah, he uses threats, tries to forbid any talk of the plague, but it's like the fear has its own momentum now.
It's too late.
Pretty much. And the description of them burning the dog's body, it's brutal. The smell, the legs sticking out of the fire.
Just driven by pure desperation and fear. Shows how quickly things break down, how they turn on each other, even a pet.
So after that horror, the narrator is just exhausted. And he realizes his brother is gone.
He goes looking for him.
Yeah, finds his sleeping spot empty. And then he sees this small personal detail, the camel-shaped tin opener his brother left behind.
Oof. That little object just drives the laws home.
It really does. He runs to the edge of the valley, shouting for his brother. But there's nothing, just the sound of the water and maybe a distant warning shot from the guard post across the way.
Highlighting the danger, the isolation.
And then the final awful confirmation comes when Lee gets back from searching.
What does he find?
He finds the brother's kit bag down in the flooded valley, tangled up in debris.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The implication is clear. He likely drowned trying to cross that same dangerous valley.
So, just devastating loss. Right after the betrayal and killing of the dog. And just when they're reeling from all this.
The world flips again, abruptly.
The villagers return.
They return. And they're not happy. They're armed bamboo spears this time and aggressive. The boys are immediately treated like prisoners again.
Their brief, chaotic freedom is just over.
Completely over. They're gathered up by the cold bonfire, the absence of the narrator's brother, now a heavy fact. Then they're locked up in an outhouse shed, waiting, anxious.
And from inside the shed, they see something really disturbing.
Yeah, they watch the villagers digging up the corpses they themselves had buried the animals, the girl, and burning them in the communal grave.
The text says it feels like a ritual.
Yeah, like a ritual to reassert control, to purify the village, erase the time the boys were, in charge.
You must have driven home their realization.
Oh, absolutely. That they hadn't occupied anything. They were just cut off. Now adult authority is back, armed, unforgiving. They have zero power.
The dynamic just snapped right back, brutally.
And this leads to what the text presents as a kind of trial.
Though trial feels like the wrong word.
Definitely. It's more like a raw display of power, a demand for absolute submission. The scene inside the shed is incredibly tense.
And there's that horrifying detail confirming the soldier's fate.
Oh, yeah. The spear with a piece of human intestine stuck in it. It's just graphic, brutal. Shows exactly how the villagers dealt with that outsider.
Sets the stage for how they'll deal with the boys.
For sure. The headman starts listing accusations. Breaking into houses, stealing food, vandalism, arson for burning the warehouse.
And he backs it up with violence, cuffing them around.
But the core demand isn't really about punishing those things. It's about controlling the story.
Right. He offers them food, but there's a price.
A steep price. Admit that nothing happened here and that you saw nothing. Silence. Complicity.
In exchange for survival. Rice balls and soup.
And one by one, the text describes them giving in. Hunger, fear. They walk to the wall to get the food. It's this slow, agonizing capitulation.
Such a difficult, desperate choice forced on them.
Even Minami and Lee, who seem to resist at first, they eventually break. Minami's line as he gives in is just dripping with cynicism. It was you who did bad things. But we've said, we'll let that go. Basically accepting their twisted version.
And Lee is threatened too, right? About his own settlement.
Yeah, the headman uses that leverage. If Lee doesn't comply, his people could suffer. So he gives in too.
Leaving only the narrator.
He's the last one. Refusing to comply, refusing the food, holding on to what actually happened.
And that defiance.
Yeah.
It pushes the headman over the edge.
It really does.
Yeah.
The text describes this vicious verbal and physical assault, calling the narrator vermin, saying he should be killed now while he's young, nip the bad buds.
It's terrifying. Just absolute contempt. The idea that he's fundamentally bad needs eliminating. Threatening to throw him off a cliff.
It's the ultimate expression of power over him, but despite that raw brutality, the headman doesn't kill him.
Right. Instead, he makes a different decision.
He banishes him, kicks him out of the village.
What are the terms?
Clear and isolating, leave tonight, run far away. And crucially, no one will back him up if he goes to the authorities. Plus, he'll still be punished as an absconder from wherever he came from originally. He's completely cornered.
So they escort him out.
Forcibly. The blacksmith and other men take him back to the trolley. A final, hostile expulsion.
That trolley ride back must have been loaded. Thinking about his brother.
Yeah, brief, tense, dark. But the danger isn't over just because he's left the village boundaries.
No. What happens?
As soon as they reach the other side, the blacksmith attacks him with an iron bar, tries to kill him.
Wow. Just misses.
Just misses. It's this final violent punctuation mark. Confirmation that even outside the village, he's still pursued, still unwanted.
So his only choice is to run.
Desperate escape into the dark woods, getting scratched, tangled up. The text ends with him collapsing in the snow, exhausted.
Rubbing his throat against shrubs to stifle his crying.
Yeah. It really emphasizes that feeling of being utterly abandoned and trapped. Trapped inside the valley, and now trapped outside it too. Leaving didn't mean freedom, just a different kind of harsh isolation.
Wow, that was, an incredibly powerful and, frankly, difficult journey through this narrative.
It really is.
We've seen these boys go from being these observed outsiders to survivors making a claim on an empty world, however briefly.
Only to have adult authority come crashing back down, brutally, leading to betrayal, loss, and just utter isolation for the narrator.
And the power of it is in those details, isn't it? The spitting, the spear, the dead animals, the burning dog, that awful trial.
They create this undeniable, visceral sense of their reality, the stark choices they were forced into just to survive.
It's such a raw look at how power works, especially when things break down. How fear divides people leads to cruelty.
And the devastating result of being labeled vermin by those in charge.
Yeah, it really leaves you thinking about so much like, what was the plague really? What truly happened to the brother?
And maybe the biggest question, does escaping a place like that village actually offer any real freedom? Or are you just an outcast wherever you go, trapped in a different way?
That's a lot to sit with. Hopefully, though, this deep dive helps you track the key moments and feel the intense weight of this story as it's told in this text.